you guys for your patience.
Staying up there today?
We can,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that before we got started. Have this up to you later.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How's everything going here?
Good. Good. Very good.
Okay. All right, just a few things. Denise, I know you had followed up with Tamara Brown about wanting to know how the tourism dollars are calculated and things like that. This is the presentation that she didn't have to be able to email you back on your request. I tried to email it yesterday to all three of you guys, and it just wouldn't go through for me right now. I'm not exactly sure. We're having some still issues with her DSL. But that's the PowerPoint presentation. The 2008-9 version, portions of it was included in my May 2011 presentation to the commissioners about tourism. Obviously, tourism is a component to economic development and has a good return on investment. And that report there should show you some of that. Preble was never included because nobody knew it existed prior to me adding it to that presentation. Hopefully, moving forward, now that we have 3 CBDs and tourism is an active industry in our community, that will be included in that going forward. We've only had one state lead since I talked to you 2.5 weeks ago, and unfortunately, it was an industrial bioenergy biomass project that required a particular size building, but high-end utilities, electric, as well as 27-foot ceilings. And we don't have what they need. And they also kind of wanted more towards 71. So we responded to them with a building that could fit with some electrical upgrades if they would consider our location. So, you know, I always follow up with them when we don't match it, try to provide them with something. Project Home or / Cox is something I talked to you guys about over the last couple of years, still working with that company, and you guys were in Columbus with me, so you heard all of this last Tuesday, as well as that partnership meeting, so I know it's reiterating it, but for the sake of reporting and discussing, that we're still working with that company in relationship to another existing company that now have some concerns with rail and how overpasses are placed over rail and on private property, and it can't be done on private property without. It can be done on private property, but it's very rare, and it has to provide a certain amount of dollars to the rail line. If it's done on public property, you have to close at least 3 crossings down to get 1. They prefer you go 5 to 1, but...
How is that possible? I heard you say that in Columbus, and I'm sitting there thinking, how would you close 3...
Oh, we got plenty we can close that are just inactive streets.
Oh, so they would have to be close. They could be like within the county, or
it has to be within in the community that the project would be in.
Okay, so if you needed a new access across the railroad, they would want you to close 3 accesses,
to get 1
the
new
current ones.
Yes, and there are a lot of old ones in the city of Eaton alone. I believe we have 17 to 18 crossings in this little tiny city. That has been an issue. Excuse me, an issue over time anyway.
Okay, that could be closed.
Yes.
Without, you know,
and we've identified, I worked with the city to identify different options that we could look at to consider if we could close a couple, if we could get a new one, but then that would include the build of a new road, a new public road, which would mean acquisition of property, right-of-ways, a whole other roadway project, which is doable. And I've been working with my partners at the state and with Jobs and Commerce to identify the funding mechanisms for to get some support to build a new public road to enhance the ability for the one primary employer to expand, to purchase a new building, and for a new employer to come back into a portion of the other facility.
Is there a cost associated yet with building the new road? I mean, is there a ballpark figure of how much it would cost to build a?
They estimate, I believe, Chris, you might be able to help me, it's 1,000 a foot or 100 a foot. There's a ratio, and we have a ballpark figure based on what we're doing in another community on what it would take. but because this one has to be bored under the rail line, for the gas and everything, the infrastructure going to the rail line, it's a
Right.
whole nother ballpark.
Right, because that'd be a lot more.
And we don't have that yet, because without knowing that the rail line will work with us on this project, that right there, that's holding up everything. And we're working with ORDC and our state partners to work with them and not be belligerent and try to bully our way into it. We're trying to be a good partner and a good citizen in this relationship with them, because at the end of the day, it comes back on the community, it comes back on the companies. We're trying to make sure that our companies are not subjected to the berating that can happen when you start, the rail lines can be very tough to work with. You can talk to anybody.
I've been asking around about that, and yeah, that seems to be the
Common
consensus
sense.
that's there, yeah.
But we are working with partners that have offices that deal specifically with the rail line, that can identify issues that we can remove before we confront the actual rail line. And a lot of that has to come from, some of that communication has to come from the two companies that would be involved, because they have to guarantee the rail line a certain amount of carts a month. So anyway, working on that, just want to let you know that it's a tough project. We're working with multiple people in Columbus to make this happen, as well as the city and the townships. So Project Beaver, it's a local company. Also, you know about this. Again, I've discussed at other meetings that we have a company that is potentially going to go through an expansion based on some foreign trade issues with some of the other locations they have globally. That I know that business is coming back to the States, and we want to try to make sure that that business comes back to Preble County. Project Boots, it's another project again I told you about. We continue to work on that with the state, with the community, with the business to get the funding here, to get the timeline built for the road work to be done. And the paperwork, we're just down to entering the information into the system to get that project moving, and it should be done before the end of June. Project Hope, it's another local company that is going through a 3-phase expansion. 2 of them will be internal, 1 will be a bricks and mortar. Working with the state on that as well, because there's some issues with the property that they'll require some backfill. And there's other areas of the state and country that this project could go, so depending on the cost of the building here, will determine where it actually ends up. And we're trying to make sure that goes to the community, and the state is aware. We want to be as aggressive as we can to get that. Project Madison, that's an internal lead, which means that's something that came directly to my office, not through the state. It's a business from another county in the state that wants to purchase an existing building in Preble County to locate right next to an existing employer that they get their supplies from. Both myself and the local representative from that community went to that community where the businesses and visited them to see what they did and understand what kind of business we were looking at here in Preble County. And that would create 20 new jobs. And I don't know the total investment yet, but they would purchase the facility and the acreage that goes with the facility that would allow for future expansion, either of that particular company or the company they're partnering with to do some expansion. Project Grain is the grain crusher. I've talked to you guys about the gentleman that I worked with the ESP fund to get him some funding for patent work and some market research study, not market research study, but study on the outcomes of the process that he uses with Wilmington University. Working to the next level with him. We've now placed him with other people in the industry that sell organic products that would like to purchase his grains and sell them in their places of business, both locally and in the region. So we're back to the ESP fund asking for funding to create a marketing plan for this type of entrepreneurship, and it fits right in with our agribusiness plan. So a lot of activity in terms of leads. Most of them are retention and expansion projects. So again, we only have one from the state this last time. We did have one other one, but we didn't get the building dimensions. They just wanted to know if we had a building with a certain type of electric, and we didn't have it, but it wasn't anything concrete that we could respond to. I've met with the Workforce Development Committee and the partnership, as well as some other partners in the partnership, to talk about the funding structure of our workforce development plan in terms of work-ready communities, things like that. What we did is we identified some of the things that I need from that committee and from the partnership and our partners in the partnership to enhance my conversation with businesses, i.e., if I work with this new company that we met with just a few weeks ago, to be able to tell them that if they consider Preble County, we will test the employees that apply for those positions through our Work Keys initiative, and that will also fund possibly a profile, which is around $1,500, to make sure that we're giving them top-notch employees when they come in. And that money has been pre-budgeted before in partnership. It's just we haven't used it in that way. So we're trying to identify how best to use that in terms of recruitment. We've been using it for existing stuff, but I need stuff for recruitment. So the partnership and the resource partners in the partnership have asked me, just tell us what you need and let's work something else. So with that. The Business Development Committee, where we have not had a follow-up meeting since our last one, and of course you know that Chris is on that committee. The conversation has been the land use plan. We have a meeting this Friday that hopefully we'll have an update on where the county is in that conversation. We know that you guys have been discussing that, and Chad's been involved in those discussions. Our committee would like to be updated on that, so we know what our role is in that and how we can facilitate this happening sooner than later. There are a lot of things in that plan that either can help me, or the fact that we don't have one hurts, not me, but what our initiative is. So hopefully we'll have that. As one of the committees of that business development committee is the agribusiness development committee. We surveyed 27 different agribusinesses in the county to find out how we can help their business grow, what things are standing in their way that can keep them from growing, a multitude of different things. And we've gotten a few of the surveys back, but not all of them yet. And when we do, then there'll be a consensus vote from that. But after those were the producers that we surveyed. The next will be consumers, and then after that will be the policy components.
So you guys had a meeting with the producers, that's what you said?
We had a meeting of the producers.
Okay,
yes.
so I had a few questions about this, this agricultural economic development plan. Okay, so who developed the invite list? Who is, I mean, because I would think you'd want just to go out to as many people as possible to get as much input as you could. So who developed the list of who to invite?
The chair, Ronnie Creech.
So Ron did
yes.
that? Okay.
And there's a system to the way that we approach certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And because this plan is going to be over a lot of different areas.
Right.
So inviting 100 people in, that would create a 3 or 4 hour conversation. We're not ready to that point.
Okay,
yet.
so you're starting
just fact finding. It's written. All it is to get more topic issues
to
discuss with more people. So we did invite, the chair invited multiple people to come in and just discuss this, and those people invited people in their industry. So it did get out. Now some people weren't, yes, some people were not strategically invited for whatever reason, because we were looking at people that are already working with farm markets, people that have retail operations. So there was a little bit more structure to the meeting versus just, say, somebody that's growing large fields of wheat.
Right.
We are looking at people that are already producing something that can be consumed.
Right, the retail in a retail
Right.
fashion. Okay. So did Rod contact these people?
Yes.
I mean, he called them or emailed them or whatever he did. Okay. So you did have a meeting. How many people were at the meeting?
We had about 27 people,
Okay.
counting me and Rod.
Okay. Well,
How many was that? How many? I'm just checking.
27?
I'm just curious though, and I've met Rod, but the problem on these things, and talking with Jim here, is the exclusion of some people. Now, whether it's on purpose, by mistake, or whatever, it happens, and that's where you get irritation. Now, I don't know how Rod came up with it, and he had come up with everybody that they were targeting, but I do know there's people out there that said, we weren't invited, and maybe they're not in that target thing, but that is already out there.
So there are 3 different, this plan is large. Multiple people from the same industries will be used in other areas. Nobody needs to feel purposely excluded. That's not what we do here. We're not known to exclude people. We work with people. So we will invite them in other areas, and we have let it be known in this particular area as well as others that we want everybody included. When everybody's point of view included, there's a method to it. and I need to be able to get things done and completed in this plan, and that's how it is. Nobody was purposely excluded. We want this to be successful. We want it to impact every ag-related business in this county,
Right.
So,
positively.
let me get this clear. Anybody would have an issue with not having been invited to the first one, legitimately or not. At some point be included, and because this is where it comes into how it was decided, who went, who didn't. And if you just have one person deciding, you kind of limit the amount of people that perhaps.
That person even knows.
Yeah, and is the committee that decides?
Well, Rod is a very, very
There's a lot.
well-named person in the agricultural community. So, well, end of the day, we had a meeting. Those were the people that decided to come to the meeting. We know that their network also let other people know. There will be people included in other areas. Like I said, there's producers, consumers, and policymakers. Some people that are in maybe the producer section have knowledge that need to be used in the policy section. We have very few people in this community use as resources to build plans like this. These same people are asked to serve on every community,
Yeah,
every
exactly.
committee in this county. And I want to make sure I'm using people's time wisely. So some people that you may assume need to be on the the producer committee may need to be on the policy committee because they have a wealth of knowledge. I would rather use them here, and that's that the partnership decided to take that direction, and we trust our chair. Our chair is very knowledgeable, it's from the ag community, and has a good understanding. And we met with other folks in the ag community that, i.e. with the Farm Bureau and other places like that, that understand why things are the way they are.
So the Farm Bureau was involved?
Members of the Farm Bureau were there.
People would
Okay.
agree with you, I get that, but some of the people I'm aware of are very heavily into farming, and they do produce. They weren't invited, they've been led in elected position, and, you know, to say that we wanted a certain type of people, they fit that mold, and you don't get these people, this is where you create friction. And whether you want to admit that it's there or not, as long as you pick the type of people or the people, the same group over and over again, knowing that there's other people out there that are familiar with these issues, you're going to have.
Jeff, there's more than 760 farms in this county, and for me to invite more than 760 families that have been extended families, I have no place in Preble County to host a large seminar to get everybody in. So if you have suggestions, I would be happy to hear your solutions, and anybody that you feel may have been offended by whatever, I'd be happy to talk with them or have somebody from the committee talk with them. And you're more than welcome to forward that information to me, and we will accommodate as best we can. For now, we have a plan that we have to create, and we have to move forward with it. So unless there's something else specific.
I was gonna try to keep my mouth shut, but I'll open this time. There's no intent to exclude anybody.
Right.
For a while, Dr. Mark Ulrich was on that ag committee for the partnership, and of course, he became ill.
Is that Stephenville?
And he's, he's dealing with his own challenges now, so.
I'm aware of that.
I think as far as the partnership, we looked around who was active and participating in the partnership and said, okay, Dr. Ulrich is plugged into agriculture. He's a vet. He sees a lot of farmers. Rod's the same way. And I think we'd be open to suggestions.
So,
I don't think there's any intention to exclude.
So if there's someone who really wants to be active in this process, they could just contact you. I mean, if you've got somebody who's just chomping at the bit to get involved, I'm sure you'll be glad to welcome them into your process.
Oh, I'm willing to show over there.
So,
And anybody that's willing to help with what we want to do, as long as it's help, as long as there's no personal agendas, as long as there's
Absolutely. We're
something
looking,
to
right, I mean,
to
sure,
work
we're
forward.
looking for, constructive,
Somebody can contribute.
yes.
Contribute to the plan without taking distracting from the end result. Okay, we don't have much time to do that. I don't have the staff leisure to go through long and drawn out. And the plan will be evolving. It's not, once it's done, that it's a concrete plan. At the end of the day, the goal of this plan, at least the partnership's version of this plan, is to find out what it will take to help grow these agribusinesses, to put certain groups and people in place
right.
that will help them, resource partners. In that one meeting alone, we had 5 different people who had questions, that didn't know where to go for solutions. And in that meeting, when we asked, what are the things that you're dealing with? When they asked them, somebody across the room says, well, I can help you with that. Meet me afterwards and we'll go over it. It happened 5 different times. In that meeting alone, we found 5 solutions. And if you're looking at the agricultural community in the county, certainly there were many resources before that meeting that these people should have felt like they could have gone to get answers. So that's what we're hoping to do in this plan, is to consolidate the resources, to create a resource package in this county for folks like that to tag on to, so that they can get the answers and support they need. And if they can't get it internally, then we need to find a way to get it. And we need to have the right people involved to be able to get the answers that people need. And that happened in that meeting, and the outcome of it was great. I think the surveys that we'll get back out of it were very clear.
How many surveys did you send out, did you say?
We sent surveys to everybody that came to the meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm obviously not involved in digital meetings or anything, but if you don't want all those 760 farm families at a meeting, I can kind of understand that. It gets to be too unwieldy and too, gets too big. Maybe the surveys themselves could go out further than just your immediate group. That would be, at least you get the information without having the huge group of...
The outcomes of the survey will go out. The outcomes of the survey will be in the Register Herald, so then people can see...
Well, if it's such a small group, though, that surveys are... The results of surveys are more legitimate the more people the more input you get.
When somebody reads it in the paper that there was a survey, and they think, well, that's pretty much what I do, I wasn't even contacted.
Right, so, I'm just saying...
know that there were people from all different forms, all different kinds of producers there that represent what they do. And there are a lot of commonalities, and but I just don't want to get hung up on, I understand what you're saying, but there's a method to being able to get a consensus on, okay, what are the overall things that are affecting your industry, talking to these specific people.
Okay.
So the next group of people, they're going to have something else that affects them differently, because their ask is going to be different. And from that point on, then we'll have a base plan. These are the issues that we've identified based on these industry representatives.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree? Do you have something else to offer? And again, nobody's
Okay,
excluded,
I see.
so we
All
will
right.
get there. This was the first meeting of consumers. So we will get there. Producers,
Right.
correct.
Right. Okay, and I'm just, all right, let's just...
And I think some of it is just, like you said, the more people you talk to, I was telling Shawnda the other day, there's actually a honey growers association in Preble County.
A what?
Honey growers.
Oh, right, okay.
And, unless you just happen to stumble across that, you don't know.
Right.
And that's not unique
Committee,
to,
though.
that's not unique to, excuse me, Jeff, that's not unique to anyone else. There's a lot of associations out there I don't know of, and it's just a matter of talking to people.
Right.
So,
What was your point, John?
I agree 100% with you on that.
No.
There's a lot of stuff all of us don't know, but when you just have one person picking a group of people, even if he knows a lot of people, you run into that thing, that you know a lot of people, and you didn't know about the honey growers thing. That's my thing. If you come up with a group that says, that's
We'll
supposed
just
to
say
take
that there were honey
this right.
growers there, and those honey growers know other honey growers in the county. So therefore, they are taking what they got out of that meeting back to the people they network with. There were other producers there that are taking what they learned back to their network of people. And that was something that came out in that meeting, was that example, the Women in Ag Conference is going to be held in Houston Woods in 2014. And a result of our tourism initiative, which is phenomenal, this is what we need to happen. So then, what's that?
The CBD and tourism had nothing to do with that. I know when that came from, so.
That's great, okay, so I'm making sure I'm important. That it happened here, I met with quite a few people that are involved in getting that here, which is great. And I'm glad that we have people now thinking about holding conventions in Preble County. There'll be a couple hundred women at this conference that bring their children and their family, which is phenomenal. But what they do when they come to this conference, not only do they stay for a couple days, they want to eat all locally grown foods. So therefore, the people that have to organize this conference have to find people in our area that grow foods that are CE seasonal that can be produced and harvested at that time to service these hundreds of people. So there you're going to see a whole lot of local businesses producing more goods just for that one particular conference, which means they're going to hopefully producing more goods. They may have to hire a person or two to help to get it to that point. They may have to change their business plan a little bit to be able to do this again. It may get more spin-off by them being a partner, getting coverage in this conference in terms of, say, Morning Sun, their eggs were provided to this conference for them to be promoted on that. I don't know if you know their eggs are served in Yellow Springs and all the menus at those restaurants that probably many companies. Hopefully we'll see that more often as a result of this plan. But that conference is a good example of these people that are working to organize it, they don't know who produces what and where. And there are other entities in the county that you would think at this time in an ag community that there would be some sort of resource list of who's doing what in terms of production of locally grown produce. So hopefully that we'll get to that point that in that meeting that came up, that so-and-so needs a list of locally grown produce. So therefore everybody in the room said, well, I do this, this, and this, and I know this person does this and this. So now that person has a network of people to work with to make sure that if we don't grow it here locally in Preble County, that we're working with our neighbors. Once you start producing, once you create that demand, you have to supply that demand. And hopefully they both grow consistently. If you can't supply what's demanded, it's going to hurt all of us. So we need to make sure that it's a methodical, thought-out process when we think about the agribusinesses growing and producing and people going into business in these niche markets. If we have 5 egg producers, that's okay. We just have to figure out how to make sure all 5 of those egg producers are selling their eggs, not just in Preble County, but all over.
I think there's a misconception here about it. I think we need a list of local producers and stuff for what they produce, but that convention is going to be in November. So there's, if we're thinking fresh fruits and vegetables, we're not thinking the right thing here.
There's completely more than fruits and vegetables. There's meats.
Yeah, I know, but you said they wanted all fresh produce, and I'm just telling you that November 14th or whatever, you're not going to find a whole lot of that in Preble County. So the eggs, yeah, I agree with you. I think any time of the year you need a list like that, I agree with you on that. But when you say stuff like that, all fresh produce locally grown, it isn't there in November.
There are farms, for example, today, Overbelt up there, they're learning to grow produce year-round. So there's just different, and that's great because they're learning new technology to be able to grow their products year-round. And that's where we want to see growth in entrepreneurialism and agribusiness. If they need to learn how to do certain things year-round, whether it's taking a different hoop or cover or whatever, we want to help them learn what it takes to grow year-round. And Robertson done a phenomenal job of doing that. We want to see them to continue to do that. At the end of the day, there's going to be a list. It's going to be a good plan. I think it's going to be helpful to the entire community, economic development in that community. It's a good thing. I appreciate you.
Are you done? One thing that I've noticed since I've been here is that whenever we get a report and we sit up at this table, we actually have a written report. I'm just wondering if we could get a written report from you when you come in about these projects that I don't remember the names of them, even in the code names, whatever, with, the status that you just provided in writing so that we can, I can look back and say, okay, well, if I have a question, well, this is one she brought up and I haven't heard about in a while, so what's going on with that one? You know what I mean? And so if we had a status like that, and you could include what's going on with the ag side of it, that, like you just did. The retention visits, you say we have retention visits, you're going to say, hey, I went out to see this company. We don't need details. We don't need, there are things, I heard you talking to Jeff. We don't want a company's information. If they're going to lay off 100 people, that's up to them to tell their employees. That is not up for us to be, publicly announcing that. But it would be nice if we had a list of, I went to see this company, and if you can provide any kind of details of, they don't like this county policy. I was at JFS yesterday, and there was some policies, some county policies that they, we can actually affect, change it.
I think that's still, I mean, you have to be careful with that. I mean, if
Right.
Shawnda were to say, we're going to, there's a private business that's going to build an exit ramp off of Jordan Road on I-70, all of a sudden.
I'm not asking for
No,
details.
I know, but I mean, that would affect, people around there, maybe falsely. So, I mean, I do think you have to be careful in what you say and how you say it.
Right. But I'm just saying, I went to company A, B, and C, and if you can provide something, fine, but if not, fine. It'd be nice to be able to say, well, what, I mean, because that way we have a running list of, you visited this company, well, maybe I hear something about some company over here. Well, here, Shawnda, you haven't visited that company, at least I haven't seen it on your list anywhere. Why don't you go over there and talk to them? You know what I mean?
Most.
But all other departments provide us with something like
Well,
that, and I would like to see that.
Here's the thing, I get what you're saying, but, and we don't seem to be crossing the wall here, and it's a false argument when you have somebody come in here and give her a report on the record that she can't turn in a bullet point type thing that can be referred back to by the commissioner or anybody else. If it's in code names, anybody can go online and listen to what she's saying right now. So the argument that, oh, we can't turn in a report of what she just spoke verbally, it doesn't hold a lot of weight to a lot of people, not to myself at all, but I'm not the only one, so wait a minute, there's no way they can check and compare is to go back through audio files, but she's giving a report, she's reading from something here. So, condense down that report and just turn in bullet points or something. I mean, but to say that, well, we've got to be careful, she just said it. So they're not asking for any more than she just said. And you're saying we can't do that.
And that's what I would just like something to refer back to, and I don't want to listen to the audio, I was there. And I'm not going to be able to remember
Well,
that.
if they come in and get a commission CD, they have to listen to the whole thing to find it. And
Well, I guess the whole thing on this is, you're talking about retention visits, that's one area. I mean, she can give us how many retention visits she goes on. You're talking about how many contacts she's made with the leads, it's not leads anymore, it's prospects. She can tell you how many she's submitted to, but once you start putting that on paper, let me finish, Jeff,
Sure.
please.
Sure.
Once things are put on paper, then that can be, because you don't want to give up any pertinent information pertaining to the company, the site at this point in time, because it's still just out there as a prospect. Then people start putting that and get the wrong assumptions. You got to be very careful. As Jim said, you got to be careful not to get people going off in the wrong direction.
But we're not asking for anything other than what she's saying written down.
If I can make a suggestion, is that it's very odd the way that this operates in comparison to what my counterparts do, and that's fine, I understand we're different. But there are times when, I'm giving you I'm giving you an update. And Jeff, I do appreciate your suggestion. I do, so just let me finish, but I want to make sure that I'm clear on this, is that Project Cox, I've been talking to you guys about that for 2 years. And the details are so small and minute, and that I'm getting here so often that it's hard to get a concrete answer or example of things because things are constantly in motion. So I feel like I am just churning and churning and churning the same information. My suggestion, because do you want to sit here and hear that I made a phone call? Do you want to sit here and hear that I wrote a letter? Do you want to sit here, do you want the administrator, I'm asking this in a roundabout way, the details in terms of what our activity is, because when I tell you, okay, talk to 5 companies, or work with 5 companies, 1 or 2 of those companies literally take 2 or 3 days of my time. So the time essence and what it takes to take care of these things is something that can't come across always. My suggestion is that why not it be like my office is, everybody knows where my office is. They know where my website is, people can call me, there's always a way to find out what's going on by coming over. You come over and talk to me, when no one knows something, you come over and talk to me and get those details. I can share things like that then. Because I have, at the end of the day, be respectful to the employer or the prospect. That's just the way it has to happen for us to be successful. And I respect, some people's desire to want to know everything, I get that. But really, to benefit everyone, we have to operate in a certain way. My suggestion is can we move this to maybe quarterly so that I can give a presentation that shows the number of leads, the number of retention visits. Then it's more of a picture and a value of something that you can use versus me giving you still working on the rail and still working on the applications, because it doesn't really make sense to you at the end of the day. And I can provide you with reports the same thing every time because these things are in motion. So do you want in details, and my suggestion is, and this is the way it happens in other counties, is that some ED directors only give a report every 6 months because their commissioners come and talk with them, their stakeholders come and talk with them, or they're out in the community, or it's in the newspaper, just the same way we do. Is to keep yourselves informed, because you guys are at partnership meetings. You hear all this stuff time and time and time and time again, and then I'm in here doing it again for the record. So I would prefer every quarterly giving you a full-blown presentation of activity and outcomes that's in a safe way, that to where it's not, because if I talk to you about one particular company, I met with one company, some people can put 2 and 2 together. I can. I know when I see these come through, there's times when I can pinpoint, I know who that company is, who's looking. And I know other people can do that with some of the things I talk about in retention. If I'm telling you I'm visiting this business, and then 2 weeks later I'm calling that project something and there's an issue, it can be put together, and then I have people in the community that send emails to people and say that this employer has an issue and they're not being taken care of, and I heard this, this, and this, and it gets back to the company. And then the company shuts down communication with me. Not because I let it out of that, but because somebody thinks they could put the dots together and create an outcome to provide it to the community, to create a perception that's the truth. So at the end of the day, there has to be, I've never been told what to report. I've always given the commissioners details of what we're working on. They've kept themselves informed, and I understand that you're new and you want to be informed, and whatever I can do to accommodate making sure you're informed. But I think the partnership needs to make that decision on what to report, because I report to them at their meetings, which you guys are at.
And see, and what I would like, and I don't know, I'm kind of confused why the partnership doesn't want a written report. I don't remember, I mean, we can sit here and I heard the same thing at all of our, well, for 3 of the 4 meetings, you kind of repeated, because you were talking to new people, a new audience, but you repeated the same thing over and over again. Next week, I'm not going to remember what you said. And so I would like to have something that this is what's going on, and, here are these projects, code names, whatever, retention visits to whomever. Then I would like to, be able to compare from one report to the next, so that to refresh my memory.
I'm happy to do that. My concern is with it being plastered on the internet. My concern is that it being misconstrued and twisted in a way that's not conducive to our business environment. I would be happy to provide you with the information you need, as long as the partnership and because you guys are a partner, right? That there's some sort of because even in a partnership there's confidentiality agreements that things that are mentioned in that room aren't supposed to go anywhere else.
That's a public meeting, though.
Yeah, that's the whole point. This is a public meeting. You're reading from something. There's nothing top secret there, or you wouldn't be.
It's not about top secret, but so I guess Jim,
anybody can listen to
you
that.
can make a decision on how.
I mean, the partnership meetings are public, right? I mean, any old body can show up and sit.
I believe they are.
Okay.
So if I come and throw up a video camera, basically, this is the whole thing. It's just easy. There's probably less information if she does a bullet point than what she's reading from right now. But people can go online, or they can request a CD and get that information. To say that, well, it's going to be on the internet. It could be on the internet by my site or anybody. They can get a CD and do that. So this thing that, if anything, it'd probably be more condensed. I think and frankly, it'd be a lot easier to get the report. I have the last report, and I'm amazed.
Wait, I need to clarify that. That was not a report. That was my personal handwritten notes on my own personal paper.
Well, however,
just want to make sure that's clear.
and that's fine. I get those your own personal notes.
And Jeff, I think, we're looking for constructive, and not that yours isn't
Well,
constructive.
that's the impression given, and that's the
But
impression out there.
I think whenever you get down to the point where, gee, you know, Jim misspelled potato, is that a reflection of who I am as a person? Well, you know, yeah, I do misspell words from time to time, and that's just who I am. I'm sorry, I apologize for it. But, you know, we're just looking for constructive input. And sometimes whenever that's put out, is put out in a way that isn't constructive. And, you know, it's not just public money here, there's private money here too. So those people have either stockholders or their owners, and they have the right to know what we're doing as well, and they ask us. So, you know, we feel real good about this partnership. We want this partnership to continue. We think it's a good thing for the county. I have regular meetings with Shawnda. You know, I'm interested in you guys' thoughts. Obviously, you're investors in this, along with you know, some other folks. So, yeah, that's, you know, I don't know. I had asked Shawnda to give me a report, and then, you know, went over there and realized that, you know, she's filling out a lot of paperwork. So she said, "Can I just use my calendar and use that as kind of an agenda?" Like, sure. Let's get over this stuff. Let's go over and talk about it. You know, my big challenge is just to be as engaged in this as I need to be to make sure it succeeds, and run my business at the same time. So.
Well, we are spending a lot of taxpayer money, and any money that we spend, I mean, that's public money, and
Right.
it's all, I came into this office to bring as much transparency as I could to what's going on in the government. I don't see that Shawnda providing a written report of the things that she reports here as being a huge hurdle.
Yeah.
That, you know, if the public wants it, they can, you know, look at it for my own benefit, that I can go and say, okay, well, she talked about this and this, I haven't heard about this one in a while, so let's ask her. Or what can we do as a board to help in all of this? So I don't see it as a big issue, and I'm very confused when I first got in as to why it hasn't been happening all along. There should be some kind of something in writing that I can follow along with. She's got this, and I can make my own personal notes with my own link and say, oh, okay, and make my own, you know, conclusions. So I don't think I'm asking for anything that.
No.
Like I said, I'd like to come up with a solution to where I think
Yes.
that we're respectful of everyone, and I'd be happy to do that and work with you and identifying a way that we can do that.
Okay.
To where, at the end of the day, we're respectful to the folks that I'm talking about.
Oh, and
But I also still want to, you know, let it be known that the details in any of those reports, again, they're moving. They're constantly moving, and so when you think about it on an every 2 weeks or once a month basis, that
how often, is it once a month to come in?
it is now, but because of just delays or getting reshifted, I think I was here 2 weeks ago. So before, I think I was here once a week, then I was every 2 weeks, and then once a month.
Okay.
My suggestion is that I'd like to give you more, something that you can chew on versus just, because you hear this stuff, I'm with you guys all the time, you guys hear all this stuff all the time.
Well, I'm not worried about my hearing, I'm worried about the public, making sure that we're spending their money and being as transparent as we can be.
That's why I love to keep you informed, because I know you can speak on the things that you hear from us. I know that when you're in the partnership meetings and you hear those things, I know that you three are ambassadors to the partnership. And at any point, you guys know what we're busy on, or you call me. I like keeping you informed.
You can pick up the phone and call me anytime. I have no problem with that.
But I know when we first started, we were getting monthly reports. They were pretty redundant. As Shawnda said, a lot of these are moving targets. Some of these projects you work on for months, years.
Right.
I mean, and so when she started listing everything that she was doing, you come in and you can almost take last month's and overlap it with this month's and have the same thing. So the problem is getting information that is useful when she comes in here. And you know, I think it's something the partnership needs to sit down and discuss, unless there's something that needs to be brought before this body. You know, every 6 months is probably more than sufficient. As they said, we attend the partnership meetings. If there's something that really is big and involves us, I think they should be in here before us. But it's, you know, it's good that we keep in contact, and I talk to Shawnda all the time, but it takes time to sit down and do a report each month.
Well, I mean, not if you, once you get the first report and you get the format of the first report, if you're gonna come in and give us a status on those projects, you just update your statuses and come in with the report. It's not, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
I'll agree, 2
And
weeks
then
is ridiculous.
add to it.
She should be here in 2 weeks. It's a waste of time.
I want to give you guys tangible things. And another thing I want you to be considerate of is that when I name projects, like Project Pellet, it's the biomass project that I was talking about. There's some months I get 10 of those. And because we don't have, sure I submit it. But
We don't
get
want
voted out.
active, no,
So
we want
then, so
active.
the thing of it is things are active now, then not active next week. Then 3 months from now, they're active again. So again, if I tell you Project Pellet to be submitted, I can darn near tell you that I'm not gonna make the cut because we don't have the infrastructure.
See, and I don't,
So when we took the time to do it, and we took the time to work on it, so then you start putting out these projects and you work on all these projects, and then you have people coming back from the community saying, what happened to this one? And they come and go they go as quick as they come.
well, and
So,
I mean, when I mean active, I mean, real conversations about, I'm looking at this site and the company has come to see the site and they are actually, you know, actively pursuing doing something, not submitting things. That, I mean, I don't really need to know that because you do that all the time. I want, you know, the things that are very active and actually going to happen as much as you can predict, that's what I'm talking about.
you know what I'll suggest, I understand, I really understand. Would you let the partnership know, let Jim know that in writing, what you would like to see?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that we can come up with a compromise, and I can keep you informed and provide the community with things, and, you know, as long as, you know, there's things that I do that actually don't get discussed in here. You know, I try to discuss with you the things that I can.
Right.
So,
And coming from the private world, I understand that completely. Businesses do not want to tell their competitors what their next step is. I mean, I come from that world. And so it's completely understandable, but what I'm asking for is just what you say here.
just if you could give that to Jim.
I will,
and let
absolutely.
the partnership
I will
decide what
absolutely
they
give
would
that to
like
you.
for me to do, and then I would just like some consistency between, you know, I'm reporting to everyone.
Well, and
I'm reporting
whatever,
to you guys, I'm reporting to you guys, I'm doing, you know.
like I said, I was very
things
surprised that the partnership doesn't have a written report themselves. So whatever we come up with, I will be happy to take whatever it is you submit to the
It
partnership.
should be
What
interchangeable.
I want.
Yeah, it should be the same
The
information.
partnership has committees, and that's why there's no report, because there's committees and committee chairs, and I'm serving on all of them. So when those committees report, it's not just my activity. So that's why it operates that way. But also, you know, there's been times when some documents that were taken out of that meeting and used in a non-productive way, that without understanding the full picture of what's discussed in that room and how things function, how those committees function, that it's detrimental to the partnership, the brand of the partnership and what they're doing, as well as the commissioner's involvement in those things. So that's why there's committees, that's why committees report, and I serve on all of them, and many people on all those committees serve on all of them, so really, we're all informed. And
Well, the public needs to be informed, is my point.
I understand that, and so, you know,
I will do
let the
that.
partnership decide what you guys want to
I think
do,
that's
so I'm
something
not.
we need to, we've had this conversation sometimes, we need to talk with partnership, probably in a better format is by the way of some type of press release or something along that nature, if you want to get it to the public.
I think a presentation every so many months that can be given to the public. It's in a way that they can digest it versus just these names and these little code things and working around this. Then it brings up more questions. So what are you doing? I know some people are doing it. How can you do so? It's very very careful. So,
but there are things when, I mean, honestly, if you put it out to the public, they may have some input that they can provide you. They might have a buddy that has a piece of land that he was talking about at dinner last night, thinking about selling. And there may be some input that you can have from other people than the circle of people that are involved. So, okay.
well, anyway, it was good
Hope the
to talk to you
dinner was very
guys.
welcome.
Oh, last but not least, I want to make sure that you have this. You're just going to be, unless you need it emailed, so please do post. This is, I've talked to you about this before.
I do like video copy going.
You can't email.
Is it registered?
I was on their site last week after she spoke to the chamber.
Um,
Sounds like a good idea.
The Partnership of Business Development Committee is hosting some quarterly events in the community in the evening to help let more people come in the evening after they get off work. Some of the things that I deal with are people who want to start a business but don't know what it takes, and once they learn how to do a business plan, they give up. And sometimes maybe a franchise is the answer. So we're having Todd Feaster come and give a seminar on possibly going into business for yourself and looking at a franchise weekend. So that would be the first one. The second one will be on, one thing I didn't mention earlier was that I met with SBA. You know, we've been trying to get satellite services here for a while, but we are going to host a seminar in June, July on providing information to businesses and individuals on how to tap into the global market. That'll be the next one. It'll also be a crosswalk. So if you can let people know that we're doing this, if they're interested, it's on our website, and the partnership is willing to help anybody that's interested in starting a business and looking at a franchise to do it. It might be a little bit easier than trying to start from scratch. And then you did get my list about the processors, right, from DOA.
The processors.
Remember, we got a list from DOA, from Director Daniels on the processors within 20 miles of Preble County.
Did you email that to me?
Meat processors, yes.
Okay, I have mine. If I have it, I have it.
Anything? No. Sure. No, I was going to try to say as little as possible. How would I do it?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Connie.
Yes.
Leaving for DC tomorrow.
That would be nice.